Greetings, everyone. I hope you're enjoying your half term. And as promised, here is a brief explanation of a new genre for us, science fiction. Okay, here we go. So, science fiction. Your learning outcomes for this video. After this video, we will know and be able to explain utopias and dystopias. And you will know the science fiction genre, especially you'll understand the differences between hard science fiction and soft science fiction. Right, before we go on to what you don't know or might not know very well, I'm just going to go over some of the genres we already know, okay? So, realism. Life as it really is. Think of the things we looked at, especially Brighton Rock. There's nothing fantastical, there's nothing gothic, it's life as it really is. EastEnders is a very modern example. Modernism, as you can see, it was the changes in the early 20th century kind of correlating with the changes in modernity of telephones, of cars, of planes. And modernism sought to represent that new change in its fiction and art. The classic example of that we've looked at was James Joyce's Dubliners, where there wasn't a traditional ending. The Everline was rooted to the spot, so you can neither go back nor go forward, and that's how it ends. And that was a change to the traditional literature of the previous century. Gothic, I'm pretty sure you all know what Gothic is now. The best example that we've looked at was the Yellow Wallpaper. Although not traditional Gothic, it had Gothic elements to it. Slightly more tricky, I've only briefly mentioned this. Magic realism. If you remember, right at the beginning of the year, we looked at Midnight's Children, and the character Dr. Aziz sneezed in that portrayal of the Amritsar massacre, and it saved his life, which was a surreal element because it's highly unlikely that you sneeze and miss a bullet. Postmodernism, we've looked at that very briefly in the sense of metafiction. In film, it's breaking the fourth wall when a character looks directly into the lens of the audience. In literature, it's making the reader aware that they are reading. Okay? So that's what we know, or most of us know, or some of us know. Now, moving on, before I look at science fiction as a genre, we need to there needs to be some background knowledge to fill in first. There's this whole idea of utopias and dystopias. Utopia is a perfect imaginary world, and a dystopia is an imperfect one in which there's great suffering or injustice, and it's usually after it's one that is totalitarian or post-apocalyptic. So just for completeness sake, utopia comes from Thomas More's Utopia, in which he imagined an imaginary island that was the perfect of all worlds, all societies. Dystopian literature is the opposite, as we've already been aware. Okay, so it's post-apocalyptic, which normally means post-nuclear war or an illness, a disease. Think of zombies. That's post-apocalyptic. And totalitarian. And it's very, very popular, especially in Hollywood and TV series. It's a very common theme to be used. Totalitarianism is effectively what we know as fascism. All right. Now this is from the Nazi Nuremberg rally of 1934. Look at the size of it; it's just immense, isn't it? Right, now let me show you how life affects art and art affects life. So these are scenes from science fiction films. Starship Troopers, Star Wars, and The Hunger Games. I'm pretty sure you can see the similarities, okay? But not just in film. In fiction, there is most famously George Orwell's 1984, and more recently The Handmaid's Tale. Both have totalitarian elements to them. So let's move on to the main new terms. I'm pretty sure you've roughly know what science fiction is, but it's in science fiction theory, it's divided into two terms: hard science fiction and soft science fiction. Hard science fiction is literally the hard material, things like ray guns, spaceships, time machines, androids, robots, all the physical stuff. And it's really kind of around technology and computers and all those things, okay? Soft science fiction is more around characters and relationships, social science like psychology, politics, all those elements. And it features dystopia, alternative histories, which I've introduced, and time travel. It can include fantastic elements. I like to think of it, and some of you might object to this, but hard science fiction probably appeals more to boys, and soft science fiction appeals more to girls. And that's a very crude analogy, but I think that it's a way of kind of just framing your thinking, if you like. I've given you some reading. Two full short stories from Glimpse and The Sound of Thunder, a chapter from H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, extracts from The Time Traveller's Wife and Kindred, and a short section from Tom's Midnight Garden. I'd like to think about what I've introduced you to today and see if you can link it to some of the themes in the text you're reading. Okay? So, just to recap, so you've got some new knowledge. Science fiction, I think most of you have at least heard of. But now I think hopefully that you will see that there are two themes within science fiction, hard and soft. I've introduced you to utopias and dystopias, dystopian fiction, totalitarianism, and post-apocalyptic. Any research on any of these topics, themes, theories will not go amiss. It will add to your understanding generally, and because AQA tend to use extracts that have gothic elements, supernatural elements, sometimes science fiction, as you will discover. And by the way, the last two extracts they've used have been realist fiction. So I think there's a good chance that actually the last three, if we include Chimamanda Ngozi's extract, I think we're due something with a more supernatural element in June. Anyway, I hope this helps. I hope you enjoy the rest of the half term, and I will see you next week.